Markus Vähälä from Citizen Network from Kukunori, Finland. I'm very glad that you are all here in the No Labels, No Walls Action Monday. We are one, people from all over the world, with our hosts, Fionn and Jonathan Angus. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So I don't know exactly how this works. I think as hosts, we should say a little bit about ourselves, and then we'll ask each of you to say a bit about yourselves. So how do we start?
Well, how we started, well.
Say your name first.
So
okay.
My name is Fionn.
And my name is Jonathan.
And together we are Jonathan.
And we're connecting with you from Ireland, and we're in Galway. How many of you, just a show of hands, who have been to Ireland? A good few of us. Well, okay. You're very welcome anytime except when there's a pandemic. But hopefully it'll be quite soon that you can come back again. So what is Fionathan?
So Fionathan is an art education and media social enterprise.
And we started nearly 7 years ago when you were finishing secondary school.
Yes.
And we had learned some of the good things that many of you already know about or that we're learning together. And what that boiled down to was that Fionn didn't want to sign up for a traditional standard disability service.
Yeah.
So the ones here in Ireland are not that great, but I don't think they're that much worse than a lot of other disability services around the world. So, but we decided to create something ourselves.
We did, yeah.
And Fionn became the first person in Ireland with an intellectual challenge to manage your own supports.
Yes.
So that's pretty exciting. And we've been really happy to do it and learning a lot along the way and sharing what we know. So I think, Marcus, it's in 3 weeks from today. Is that right? That we'll be hosting a Action Monday. And we're going to talk primarily about a new initiative we have that, it's about Down syndrome leadership.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And we just were thinking recently that there's so many organizations in Ireland and around the world that are established for the betterment of people with Down syndrome. You could put it that way. And yet, as far as we're aware, very few of them employ people with Down syndrome, certainly not in leadership positions. And when you look on the boards of directors, how many of those people that run organizations about Down syndrome have Down syndrome? Very few. So we want to do more research into that and ask why that is and see if we can help to move things along. So we're inviting you all to come and have a conversation with us about that at the beginning of next month, on the first Monday in March.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's us. We're going to go around, and I think we'll start with we'll go in order on our screen. I understand it's probably a different order for you. Marcus, do you want to say something about yourself?
Yes, thanks, Fionathan. My name is Markus Vähälä, and I'm the CEO of Citizen Network Cooperative. I'm located in Finland, and I'm working in Kukunori, which is an umbrella organization of 42 associations working with mental health, disability, and minorities. I'm very glad to have the UBI Labs, my friends, here tonight.
James, introduce yourself there.
Hi everyone, it's really lovely to be here. My name's James, along with my colleagues on this call, Sam and Johnny. We work for a social enterprise in Sheffield in England, and we facilitate the UBI Lab Network, which we're here to talk about today with you lovely people. Thanks.
And Michael, you go next.
So that's Michael and Mary, is it?
Yes. Yes, hello. We are from Los Angeles and from Strindberg Laboratory. I'm Mary and
Michael.
Michael. Good
And
to see everybody and excited to hear about the UBI Lab.
And you're in California, is that right?
Yes, we are in California.
Lovely. You want to invite Leila to introduce herself?
Yes. Leila, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name. Hello, my name is Anne and I'm calling from snowy England.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're here.
Keisha, introduce yourself there, please.
Yes. Hi everybody. My name is Kasia Sejda, and I'm from Poland. We have a lot of snow. Now we have some kind of blizzard, even some kind of snow squall, to say that, storm, and everything is white. And Leila, I want to say that even we have a lot of experience in snow, we are surprised too.
Yes, we don't
So,
have any experience in snow. United Kingdom isn't used to this. We don't have snow clouds. We don't have the machinery like your country or the US has. We're not really equipped.
Okay, but we are surprised too. We are saying that the street service are surprised. So every year is the same in Poland.
Wow.
So I'm happy to be here with you. I'm working on my stigmatization project. We have still this donation. Well, so when you are interested, I can, Marcus, can I give you this link? So if you want to support this Polish action about stigmatization, mental illness. So I'm here because I was invited by Marcus and I'm very glad. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia. And put that link there on the chat so people can join in the campaign.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sam, introduce yourself there, please.
Sam Gregory.
Oh, hiya. Yeah, Sam from UBI Lab Network, and also based in Sheffield with James and Johnny. And I sort of generally look after the kind of press and political and media work. I'm the spin doctor of the network, I guess.
Brilliant. And next?
Cynthia, introduce yourself there, please.
Why, thank you very much. I am very grateful. I'm very grateful to be here. I have love in my heart for each and every one of you. My name is Cynthia Leonard, and I am in Pennsylvania, United States of America, and I am a promoter and organizer for agora-ilp.org Citizen Assembly. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for the whole thing, but I'm really looking forward to the parts that I'll be able to catch. So thank you so much for having this.
Wonderful. What part of Pennsylvania are you in, Cynthia?
Central Pennsylvania, about 40 minutes south of Harrisburg, which is the capital.
Yeah, we were in Bloomsburg a couple of months back for a wedding.
Oh, it's beautiful there, is it not?
Indeed. Well, who's next there, Jim?
Dave, introduce yourself there, please.
So Dave Parsons.
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself then. Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dave Parsons. I'm based in the southwest of England. Very much looking forward to hearing about the UBI Lab work, because I know we don't have anything down here.
Oh, yes, I reckon got no snow.
We've got no snow.
We have.
You win.
Southeast have, yes.
They're very much looking forward to hearing from the labs, particularly, and hopefully coming up with some ideas and some connections following this.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Simon, introduce yourself there, please.
Hi, I'm Simon Duffy. I'm another Sheffielder, and with Marcus trying to run Citizen Network and also a think tank called the Centre for Welfare Reform and other stuff. Lovely to be here.
Please. Johnny Douglas, introduce yourself there, please.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here, everyone. As James and Sam have said, we work together at Opus and run the UBI Lab Network, so I'll not say much more than that about it. That's what we're going to talk about today, but great to be here. Cheers.
Jonathan, introduce yourself there, please.
Hello there. I'm Jonathan. I'm an economics student at Queen's University Belfast, and I'm not affiliated with anyone. I'm just here for some good chats about UBI.
Alistair, introduce yourself there, please.
Hi there, I'm Alistair Minty here from Aberdeen in Scotland, properly up north compared to Sheffield. And I'm proud to be involved with a few organisations that are all about equality. I'm on the board of one that's got an equal number of people with disabilities and people without, which is really good, and also part of an organisation, People-Based Development, who works with Manavidea, looking at ways to make sure that folk can get out of poverty and be much more equal in the world. So looking forward to today's discussion. Thanks.
Okay. And you, Daniel.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, also I'm not affiliated with anyone, so I'm just interested in the subject, and yeah, nice to see you all.
Okay. I see Michael there.
Hi, Fiona. It's Michael. Good to see you again. It feels like 2 years ago that you were up here playing a gig at the Stay Up Late Festival, so I'm happy to see you again. Yeah, I'm Michael, and funnily enough, we've got no snow at the moment. Thank goodness for that. I'm looking forward to tonight's session.
Okay. Hello, Mark.
Hello, I'm Stephen from Scotland, and it's snowing in Scotland here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes.
We have got tons of it.
Yeah, it was snowing this morning here, and it's still snowing here.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
I'm looking forward to the session today.
Hi, Chloe.
Hello, I'm streaming from Glasgow, and it's absolutely freezing here. It's been snowing, and it's been snowing all day.
Hey, Bob Rhodes.
Hi, Fiona. How are you? Bob Rhodes, a fellow at the Centre for Welfare Reform, and I've watched Simon get more and more excited about UBI and not had really much time to learn about it myself. So I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more this afternoon.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes. Hi, Ewan.
And Ewan, can you turn your microphone on?
That's it.
There. Hi.
Sorry. Yeah, and I'm in Aberdeen in the UK, in the same city as others here, and it's snowing as well today, and you can just see the snow hitting the walls, and that's basically it. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to today's talk to see what's going on.
Lovely. And did we say your name right? Is it Ewan?
Yeah, Ewan. Yeah, UAN, Ewan. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, thanks. Cheers.
Hello, Agora.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting this event. I represent the Citizen Assembly Network, where people come together to discuss our best ideas for how to improve our society. And we use a groundbreaking technology that actually gives us real power over our governments. In the chat, I'm going to put real quick yesterday's Citizen Assembly that we held, and it was a very interesting and a very thorough discussion of the universal basic income. So check that out and join us at the next Citizen Assembly. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Fionn. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Yeah, we have sunshine. Sorry.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Well, you know, it started out very, very heavily gray and cloudy, and the sun broke through about 15 minutes ago. It's good to be here with everyone, with all of you, to hear more about today's conversation. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful.
Yes. Hello, Kevin.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Awesome. Just testing the mic. My name's Kevin. I am from New Haven, Connecticut, and we have a lot of snow, but it's sunny right now. It's getting warm. Hopefully, just melts and all that. So I was watching the YouTube stream, which is going smoothly, and I figured just hop in. Why not? Every time like the present.
Very welcome.
Yeah.
So happy to see everyone here. I think we've heard from everyone, but if I'm mistaken and anyone would like to say any other introduction, please join in. This is your chance to say hello if you haven't already. Okay, so this is our first time hosting, so I actually don't know now whether we should pass it over to you, Marcus, or to you, James. Perhaps Marcus wants to introduce James. I'm sure James is anxious to get started on the theme, but happy to see everybody, and I'm really looking forward to the talk.
Me too.
Thank you, Fiona and Jonathan. And now you have to pick the next week's host before we go to the next stage.
Okay, we'll keep you in suspense. Can we share it at the end?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
So next, James and Johnny, the floor is yours. What is UBI Labs?
Thanks, Marcus, and thanks for having us today as well. Really good to be here. This has put a highlight of my day actually so far, meeting all of you. So thank you for that. Sam, Johnny and myself and a few other people in the background have been doing quite a lot of work on universal basic income. We originally started doing some work on this in 2016. And that came out of a series of discussions and events that we have here in Sheffield called Festival of Debate. And those discussions are citizen-led. So the idea is we hear from people's lived experience, we hear from people's expertise, and we try and discover new ways, new ways of making the world better. Now, out of one of those conversations came, out of a few conversations came the idea of UBI. You know what would fix the world? UBI, UBI, UBI. So we began looking a bit deeper into that, and Sam and Johnny and Simon actually as well, and a few others got together to start talking about that. And the challenge as ever with some of these ideas is how do you do something local? How do you do something with a small group of people? How do you make a difference to your city or town, or let alone all the big macro economic problems of the day? Anyway, we started having lots of talk about this, and eventually we formed a little community group called UBI Lab Sheffield. and we began putting on events and inviting people with different lived experiences, whether that's of disability or whether that's of like a different political persuasion or something like that. And we began having these open discussions. Eventually, we decided that what we'd like to do is try and pilot a UBI in Sheffield. And the first stage of that was trying to understand, well, what does a pilot do? And what questions would we like UBI to resolve? Would we like it to resolve a question about work, for example? Does a UBI encourage people back into work? Which of course is something that the Finnish government have done recently. And the answer is kind of, which is useful. So we carried on like that, and we got, you can see in the chat, my colleague Sam has put the proposal that we eventually ended up with. We then started asking our council, and the population in Sheffield is about 700,000 people, and we started petitioning our council to say, you should pass a motion at a city level. Well, we're starting screen sharing. You should pass a motion at city level that is an abyss of black screen. And we said, no, there we go. We said, no, we won't do that. We'll create a pilot for Sheffield. Anyway, passed a motion in Sheffield City Council in 2019, which was really quite innovative at the time. I'll fast forward a few months. We had a few interested people get in touch from different cities, and they wanted to form their own UBI lab. And so we began thinking, well, okay, if other people are interested in exploring universal basic income, how can we facilitate that? And how can we do that in a way that empowers people to have the autonomy to do the things that they want to do within the UBI space? And so we began to develop this idea of a kind of a UBI Lab Network. And that all began with a really nice piece of design and branding. And it began with some experience that Johnny here had running other decentralized networks. So the example that we like to pull out is So Far Sounds and Pechakucha. So in March last year, well, February last year, actually, we had, I think, 7 UBI labs. And then all of a sudden, this thing called a global pandemic entered all of our lives. And UBI as an idea suddenly gained a greater prominence and a greater relevance as well. And in the UK, we found that the government provision to help people through the pandemic has been woeful. And in many ways, it's been woeful. That is characterized by the 3 million plus people who have been left out of the government provision. And this was not new news. You know, everybody could see this from the provision that was offered in March. And so all of a sudden, we've seen this growth in the UBI Lab Network as people realize that a social security method, which is based on conditionality, is fundamentally flawed and will always have a net for people to fall through. So this page on our website that you're looking at now, this is how we've adapted quite a strong logo, I think, to be relevant to different geographic areas and different identities or different characteristics. So you can see there, UBI Lab Youth, we just zoomed past. We've also seen an emergence of, in the UK anyway, labs that want to take a kind of regional relevance. So UBI Lab Wales has then got a series of labs underneath it. Now, a lab is a kind of fancy word, really, that we've adopted to really just describe a group of citizens who have decided that they want to be impactful, make a difference in the land of UBI. Now, there are different ways that people do that. and they're different ways that relate back to the things that they're interested in, the things that they've got a passion for. And we try to offer some support to all of these 38 UBI Lab groups across the world to do that. And the way that we frame that way of working, I suppose, the way we frame that way of working is by creating a kind of framework. And that framework lists 3 different types of activity that we think broadly a UBI lab could take part in. So the first is public movement building, which is, again, a snazzy word for saying, bring people with you, talk to people about UBI, find mechanisms to have those conversations, whether that's an online Zoom event like this tonight, or whether it's, I know, passing a flyer out or starting a petition. Try and bring people with you, try and open up that conversation about how a universal basic income could really make a difference to people's lives. Another way we do it is by what we call lobbying elected representatives. And what that means really is having conversations with people in power. And power comes in lots of different forms, as we all know. But one in particular is elected representatives. And we're really, really interested in talking to them, whatever their party or persuasion. UBI is a discussion topic for everyone. And so we do that work in lots of different ways, whether that is writing letters to councillors or MPs in the UK, or whether it's inviting them in to events, or whether it's just simply including them in correspondence and hoping for a response. The third way within our framework that we like to have a go at this sort of stuff is through something we call lab work. Now, lab work is essentially anything from academic research and modeling into pilots, right through to just trying to explore different themes for UBI. So UBI is something that potentially unlocks a lot of capacity, both from individuals and from groups. And so we really want to explore that idea and understand it in different contexts. And that's really, really valuable work. So that is essentially what the UBI Lab Network does 38 times over. And the organisation that Johnny and Sam and I work for, Opus, we're perhaps overwhelmingly concerned with not being a dominant or top-down organisation. And so Opus tries to facilitate people to do work that they want to do in the UBI sphere. So Sam, Johnny and I, we find ourselves, and our colleague Chiwe, who can't be here today, we find ourselves running around like loons, talking to lots of different citizens in lots of different countries and lots of different areas, and really just kind of brainstorming with them about activity that they think would have an effect. And the premise that we always start from is that we should be testing a UBI. So we're not saying that we think the universal basic income is the right solution for everyone all the time, wherever they are. What we're saying is that the social security mechanisms that we have in place in a lot of parts of the world aren't suitable and aren't healthy. So we should be testing alternatives. We should be exploring new options. We should be developing ideas that lead us towards the kind of society that we want to live in. So that's really our kind of remit. And it's really exciting work. And I'm, overwhelmingly, well, you can tell from my lack of words, I'm really pleased to be here. I can talk more about UBI, perhaps for hours. It's been untested. But I'm really keen to hear from everybody here. I know you're all active and you're all interested. We're running lots of different campaigns. We've got a host of resources on the website that offer insights into the different pilots, into the different ways of working. I feel like I've already spoken too much. Marcus, is it appropriate for me to stop now and ask for questions, or what's?
Yeah, definitely. And
Okay.
the first question comes from here. Can you explain a little bit what universal basic income is?
The opening premise. I'm sorry, everyone. That's poor talk. So universal basic income. So this is when a citizen gets a regular, unconditional payment, either weekly or monthly. The level of that payment is in debate by lots of different people and stakeholders. But our view at the UBI Lab Network is that it should be above the amount that organisations like Joseph Rowntree Foundation, for example, set as the minimum poverty line. So UBI is not worth doing, in our view, unless it lifts people out of poverty. That is one of its grounding tests. If it doesn't do that, then we've done it wrong. Does that cover that question for you, Marcus?
Thank you, James. Michael.
So thanks, James, for your presentation. I kind of knew about your lab for a couple of years now, working with Simon Duffy and different colleagues from down south. But I just wanted to make the point that so what are you doing at the moment? Are you doing going around different groups like rates ourselves, speaking about the lab and all the work that you're doing? Because in my opinion, when we do come out of the coronavirus, if you think disabled people are hurt now, try coming back this time in a few months, because I think that the government will try to take people's benefits of them and all that, and also kind of like employment as well, in terms of not employing people with a disability, because employers would kind of like make an excuse up not to employ somebody with a disability because of the that they've got no funding because of the coronavirus. So are you kind of like putting in some support in terms of if people with a disability would want to get support from you, or I just wonder how you feel about all that kind of thing. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I feel like you, I think, worried about all of that. I'm worried about the provision for people broadly in the UK, let alone people with additional needs. So yeah, I absolutely share those concerns, and I think you're right to be concerned by them. The UBI Lab model in terms of disability, in terms of additional payments, so we'd be in favour of a disability plus model of UBI, whereby universal basic income was offered, of course, and then there would be additional benefits for additional needs. So which I think is the only common sense way of approaching that, to be honest. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with a point as well. When do you, in terms of, when do you start speaking to kind of like young adults with a disability? I'm kind of getting towards maybe like, because in Scotland, I don't know about Sheffield or all over the world as we are on this call, but it really saddens me how, like when people leave school, that they haven't got any support, or the families not get any support as well. I mean, I'm speaking to a family at the moment, and like they're going through their kind of daughter that's leaving school this summer, and she's kind of like worried about her daughter but also she's worried about herself as well, because she feels as though that, you know, like if the gig got so big that she got the coronavirus or not been well or whatever, well, who's going to look after her mum if her mum's not well, because her mum's like a kind of like carer, kind of like 24/7. I know I'm going off on one here, but yeah. So have you got anything kind of like in place in terms of when people leave school, because like there's a massive gap between school and college and employment?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about UBI as opposed to a means tested social security benefit, is that young people and children receive a UBI. So there's that resource there, particularly into households. It's just cumulative and really offers a kind of ray of sunshine, I think, compared to a means tested scenario where young people can't even access support in the same way, and of course adults are put through the ringer on a conditional model that is proven to add stress and anxiety to their lives. So yeah, Michael, I suspect me and you are on the same page.
Cesare, you have been working with universal basic income too in Citizen Assembly. What kind of experiences do you have, and what can we learn from there?
Yeah, I would be very happy to speak about some of our experiences. Actually, a lot of universal basic income has been an idea that we use very frequently at our introductory citizen assemblies. Very much like James said, that you could say it's not so, actually, I can't remember how he exactly said it because it's from the UK perspective. From the US perspective, you could say it's nonpartisan, because we have the political system here is dominated by two political parties. And so, people from both perspectives in that regard, it doesn't have a political flavor, you could say, because, libertarian economists and socialist economists can very often agree on that. But in our platform, the worldwide stock market of ideas, Igora, actually the UBI is the #1 idea. It is an idea that people tend to support. People get it. Like it's what people understand, that this makes sense, especially in our current in our current economic system. So this idea has a lot of public support. From our experience. Of course, the problem that we're working on resolving is the fact that people don't have political power. So we don't actually have a democracy in the United States. We have an oligarchy. We have a small group of people who control the government. And the same thing anywhere around the world, pretty much. The people don't control their governments. That's really the stumbling block. The UBI is not the problem. It's quite obvious if you actually talk to people, as you explore the idea. People do support the idea. It's the fact that the people don't have power. Our technology actually gives people real political power. So we are working on making our technology available to everybody and bringing people to citizen assemblies to learn how to use it. But the one specific thing I do want to say about the UBI is that the formulation of the UBI that I have been personally advocating, I did share that in the chat, but I will read that real quick. And it's intended to be a very short statement, so it gets to the point, and it also contains the argument for the UBI. And it is a different argument than what James is proposing. I do think it's actually a more effective argument. Let me read it real quick. Universal basic income. In our sophisticated society with a complex economy, we recognize that while we must incentivize people to be productive members of our society, the value of the contributions of some members to society cannot easily be gauged by their activity in the market. For example, parents, artists, philosophers, community servants, etc. Furthermore, we recognize that markets can fail to reward people despite their best efforts to be productive. For this reason, we should institute a universal basic income, or UBI. The amount of this UBI should be dependent on the size of the economy so as to never disincentivize higher productivity of our society. So that's it. That's the idea. Of course, anyone is free to develop that, introduce, better versions of ideas. But the essential point of this idea is that the UBI does not specify a specific amount, that the UBI would actually fluctuate based on the size of the economy, based on productivity, which I think would actually result in a much higher UBI than what UBI Labs is anticipating. I think people grossly underestimate how productive our societies are and how badly the oligarchs are actually robbing the people of their wealth through the current system. So if you did have a UBI that was based on the size of the economy, it would actually be much more significant than what James is proposing. I think what's interesting about that too is potentially it would be sufficient enough that you wouldn't even need to provide people with disabilities any additional stipends. And this reminds me of this very interesting video. I can't remember what it was, but it was quite inspiring. People with disabilities, as long as they're given opportunities to thrive, they want to overcome those disabilities. They do overcome that on their own. And the way to do that is to actually treat them more as equals. So I think that's a beautiful thing. I think if the UBI is actually sufficient, then we wouldn't even have to worry about administering for things like disabilities. But that would be proven if necessary. Of course, we can give additional money for people who need it. But the essential thing is that this version of the UBI is that we're not giving people money because to be nice or out of charity. It's because people deserve it. It's good business for our society, and because people actually deserve that through the contributions they make to our society just by being participants within our society, that the market does not appreciate everything. There are people's contributions, people contribute in all kinds of different ways that the market cannot evaluate. And in order to compensate for that, the society needs to do that. And the economy actually gets stronger as a result of that. So that's the idea. I do encourage you to support this idea. If you go into Agora, you can add this idea to your philosophy. This way, this idea will rise even higher. More people will be exposed to this idea. More people will explore it further and potentially also support it. So we become closer to implementing this idea. But again, if you think you have a better idea, then we want to hear it. If you can propose a better version, maybe you can add more resources. If you want to develop this idea further, you're welcome to do that. But then come to Citizen Assembly and tell people, I think this is a better idea. We should be supporting this idea instead. So it's a real democracy where people have the power.
Thank you, Cesare. And Johnny, James, Sam, would you like to comment before Alistair's question?
Yeah, I mean, Cesare's idea sounds like a good one, and there are so many good ideas. So I guess our approach has always been to try and present a menu of options, and providing that the options don't contradict some basic value beliefs for the UBI Lab Network, which are that a UBI should lift people out of poverty, that it should be a simpler process that means testing people's welfare payments, then I'd be in favour of it. Personally, I'm not in the business of telling people how much a UBI should be. I'm, I guess, interested in presenting a menu of options that policymakers and citizens can investigate into and make their own decisions. We should be encouraging everybody to have agency in the type of UBI that we want, which is, I guess, informs our kind of citizen-led approach to this and the citizen-led groups. And it sounds like Cesar is doing some really similar stuff, albeit with a quite hyper-specific option there, which, by the way, sounds really good. I'd like to find out more about it. Send me some stuff. Thanks.
I'll just very briefly add to that. I think for me, one of the
the main things that I love about UBI is the idea of it being the same amount every month. This is just my kind of one of the things I personally most value about it. And that sets it apart from a kind of means tested benefit system where the sanctions in place mean that you can't rely on it in the way that you could rely on knowing you get an exact payment. So I think you'd lose that aspect from it, from that form of UBI. So I think that kind of would need weighing up as a factor, definitely. I mean, the one in Alaska where the amount people get each year fluctuates. It can be wildly varying. It can be like 2.5 times from one year to the next. So I guess it makes it difficult for people to sort of plan their lives around that, really. Yeah, and just to add to that, I think as James says, one of the things we're advocating for is testing and testing different amounts. And part of that is shifting the conversation from this idea of cost to investment and looking at the value we add. Because when a lot of the arguments around UBI is the immediate question is how much does it cost and who's going to pay for it? Well, when you think about it, that's not the way you initiate anything new. You work out, you prototype it, you test it to attribute the value and impact that it has. And then you compare that to the amount that it costs you to deliver that. So if we've got different amounts delivered to different people in different circumstances, that will have different impacts and different results. And once we've got those, we can then have a look at how much it's worth investing to get the outcomes that we would prefer to have. Because the one thing we can definitely all agree on is that we are not at the pinnacle of kind of human evolution. We can definitely do better than this. So I think that's really important. And like was just mentioned there, this idea of where does the power lie is really, really important. And the whole lab network is built as a platform for people to be able to stand on. So hopefully when they go knocking on the door, they get a response, and we are greater than the sum of our parts, and we are able to influence and kind of push people towards doing potentially their jobs, some of which they don't necessarily have job descriptions for as politicians or much accountability, but to take some of that power back. And one of the ways we do that is the kind of expertise, in inverted commas, that we value the most, alongside economists and academics and all the other elements, is the most important thing is our ability to communicate. So people's expertise in knowing how to speak to their neighbor or their street or their community and talk to people face to face. We change the world one person at a time, and therefore that expertise of being able to communicate so that we can do that. There's 7.8 billion different arguments for and against UBI, and we need to explore them. There's not one killer argument. We need to facilitate people having an opportunity to be a part of something, and like James mentioned, shaping it and seeing what's best for them.
Thank you, Johnny, James, and Sam. Alistair, what would you like to comment or ask?
Yeah, no, it was just because it's such a simple idea and such a valid idea. It's just thinking, given the fact that the response to anything like this seems to be fear, by those in charge, to shut it down, to create this idea that it's some kind of communist plot to overthrow all society, rather than just about decency, valuing each other as decent human beings and having a decent quality of life, and removing the fear and terror from a lot of people that are living on the fringes at the moment. And even though we've got that massive increase in the disparity between the richest and the poorest, still it seems to not, that message doesn't get out there. It still doesn't seem to be mainstream. The response is still, you have a problem, you throw more bureaucracy at it. You have another government expert. You have another separate thing. What's it going to take for some of these conversations to start happening at a level that we can actually do stuff about it? Because we just, the internet's there, information's out there, but with all this, fake news sort of stuff, we've got folk, still thinking that Earth is flat. You know what I mean? How can we get the message out there? That's just, I guess, my thing, when we're faced with such deliberate misinformation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the golden ticket question, isn't it, really? That applies to any social justice movement. I'm a fairly unapologetic optimist. So I would always say that change is happening, and in fact, change is the only constant. So the idea that things aren't changing is probably not true. I think that the last 10 months we've seen a tremendous change, both in terms of UBI and policies related to the sort of state citizen contract, but also more broadly on an individual level, we've all changed. It's impossible for society not to have changed with us. I think that there is always going to be a dominant media narrative led by a small collection of media owners. And I think that that will always paint a picture of the world that perhaps we don't recognize. And I think sometimes that we place too much trust in that dominant media narrative. My experience from talking to people like yourselves and indeed politicians and people that might retain power is that they're very receptive to these ideas, that they're very interested in making the world a better place. So I feel like I feel positive about the world in front of us. And I think we need to carry some of that positivity alongside a kind of dose of cynicism as well. And that's pragmatism, isn't it? That's where common sense lies. And if we continue pushing common sense as defined by common good, then I hold every hope for it. I also think it's about how you link campaigns. So for me, the thing I'm really interested in at the moment is how does the UBI work that we're doing dovetail with the work that other campaign groups are doing around devolution in the UK. So this is the devolved power from central government to regions. And I think there's something really interesting about how those two things relate, because UBI, if you think about it, is effectively a devolution of power via the medium of cash, isn't it, to individuals. But also to deliver a UBI, certainly to deliver a UBI pilot in England and in the UK would require an increased level of devolution. So I think there's also some work to be done around joining up campaigns, and I think that some of the parts really is where we'll see the changes that we want. But Alistair, have hope. It's changing. It's definitely changing.
And just to add to that, in terms of the pragmatism, we are trying to start initiatives at lots of different levels and put as many strings to our bow as possible. So we've got a group of peers, MPs and councillors across the country that are part of what we've called a CPPLG, which is like an APPG, but it's the first of its kind that recognises local representation. And that is the first of its kind in the country, and it's about UBI. And we're working constantly at lots of different levels of kind of political democratic society at both a local, regional and national level, so that, again, people can see that we are trying to go in at that level, but that everybody is connected and able to join and be a part of those groups. So hopefully what we're building is that slowly kind of getting people's confidence that the little bit they do contribute actually is worthwhile contributing because it results in something. And behind the scenes, we're all kind of connected and talking to each other and chatting all the time, so that even if as part of one lab, you might not have the opportunity or the time because of the other things that are happening in your life to do something this week or this fortnight, you can see that other people within the network are doing stuff. So when you do get the opportunity to do your bit, that is contributing to a whole that is constantly making progress, that is constantly engaging people and is constantly moving things forward. I think that feedback loop is really, really important, especially to take kind of the medium of the social media stuff and use it for some good and see that it can actually result in some positive stuff as well as just the detritus.
Thank you, Johnny, and thank you for mentioning the time. We have now 5 minutes left. So first, Kasia from Poland, and then Simon. Please, Kasia.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. Thank you for this presentation. It's very important, I guess, especially now. For me, it's a great idea, and I hope someday it would be possible. But I think a lot of researchers were made about, for me, very important psychological view of this subject, because in my opinion, the Maslow even pyramid, this needs and resources, it could be destroyed for me in this kind of supporting for all of us. I don't know. Maybe I'm some kind of skeptical because I don't. I have a lot of. I am against, and I am in some way pro. So, but I support your idea, and I hope I admire your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia. And Simon.
Yeah, I wanted to make 2 points. One is that just to people in the group who've only just heard about basic income, one of the things the UBI Lab methodology does is it makes it easy for you to get involved. So just to people from Citizen Network or from No Labels, No Walls or from many other communities, Johnny and the network would be really keen to work with you, I think. So it's a kind of simple point. But I think the other side to it is think about, even if you don't like the idea, so Cassia's not sure, I'm really sure, but whatever you think, the methodology is really interesting because there are a number of things going on. The use of a brand sounds a bit shallow, but something that people recognize, a way of seeing it that gets into your head is a really good way of making change happen, I think. It's visible on Twitter, so if you're not on Twitter, then maybe this doesn't make much sense. So it's visible, but it is in a one context. It is visible in other places as well. But that visibility of all the different kinds of labs gets in people's heads. Hang on, there's one in Wales now, there's one in Iceland. That's kind of important too, that you've got all these things popping up. As I think Johnny mentioned, people are connected through WhatsApp. So there's lots of human interconnection behind the scenes that's really important. And I think the fourth thing that's really important is that when people do stuff, they wrap it up and make it easy for other people to copy it. So I think there's something about the way UBI Lab works, which is based on other things, but I think it's the most developed version that I've seen of a process for driving change that welcomes lots of people in. And I think that people in Citizen Network and in No Labels, No Walls should look at the methodology as well as look at the idea. Sorry, that was a talk.
Thank you, Simon. And Dave, did you have a question or a comment? It's today's last.
Oh, I was just typing in the chat actually, because it's kind of been answered really, but I was just going to say I'd really value a follow-up conversation with some of the guys from the UBI Labs to see how I can play a role locally in an area which at the minute doesn't seem to have much sort of footprint for this, but I do know that there would be conversations well received. So I'd like to be part of that, and if we could connect, that'd be great. But great presentation as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dave. So James, where is the party after this? Where shall we continue collaborating?
You'll be surprised to hear it's on Zoom, Marcus.
Thank you so much. And remember, No Labels, No Walls group. So join in if you haven't yet. And Citizen Network members group, join there as well. And let's meet next week at the same time, at the same place with jazz hands for autism. But before that, Fiona and Jonathan, who have you picked to host next week's Action Monday?
We have picked.
We have picked, all right. We have chosen Layla as the next host.
Do you accept, Layla?
Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
So thank you you everybody for tonight's topic, UBI Labs. Thank you, James. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Johnny.
Marcus?
And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Layla.
What is it next week?
It's Jazz Hands for Autism. So every Monday at the same time, at the same place, No Labels, No Walls, Action Monday. So please join in and thank you and have a nice day, evening, night, wherever you are.
It's cold.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.